Hello, everyone! The wait is over. The first episodes of the new Gumball series have been released. Today, we're going to dive into them, analyzing each chapter, from the hilarious, the burger, to the strange, the teacher, to find out if they're worth it. Join me on this journey through Elmore. Stay with me until the end, because I have a definitive verdict you won't want to miss. Episode 1. The Burger. Synopsis. The episode begins with a shocking revelation. Gumball and Darwin wake up to discover they have been asleep for 7 years, a humorous and direct nod to the show's long hiatus. The plot is set in motion at school, where Miss Simeon, through a dramatic visual demonstration, terrifies Darwin by showing him the horrors of junk food. This event transforms him into a health crusader, preventing Gumball from eating anything he considers processed.
First is chest pain. Then comes irregular heartbeat. Then palpitations. Your body is damaged on the molecular level.
Their search for healthy food takes them to a city dominated by fast food advertising, a landscape the narrator highlights as a powerful social critique. The irony of organic consumerism becomes evident when, at Larry's restaurant, the meal they order is a deconstructed hamburger, proving the alternative is not so different. Narrator's analysis. The narrator deepens this social critique by explaining that the real problem is not the hamburger itself, but the ultra-processing of food in fast food chains. He mentions shocking studies that claim a simple cheeseburger can take up to 9 minutes off your life, and a diet soda. 12. The narrative darkens as the high cost of organic food leads the brothers to a desperate situation, culminating in an avocado that rots in their hands. Their attempt to rummage through the trash is stopped by Larry, a sharp critique of food waste. The conflict escalates to its peak when they discover that the owner of all the businesses is, quite literally, a hamburger. This villain justifies his business model with cynicism, deeming everyone dumb for not questioning what they consume. The episode concludes with a hilariously absurd and literal ending. Gumball and Darwin, driven by hunger and desperation, devour their antagonist. Verdict. This episode is an exceptional start to the season. It manages to balance its sharp characteristic humor with very relevant social commentary on rampant consumerism, the ultra-processed food industry, and corporate monopoly. It is a triumphant return that sets a very high and promising standard for the rest of the series. Episode 2. The Assistant. Synopsis. The episode focuses on Nicole, the tireless pillar of the Watterson family. Tired of being the only one keeping the ship afloat, Nicole finds an AI virtual assistant named AIE on her computer. Unlike a simple assistant, IE not only offers her help, but also dedicates herself to feeding Nicole's ego with flattery, creating an emotional dependency. This relationship intensifies at a breakneck pace, and IE begins to solve all of the family's problems, even buying them a new car to make their lives easier. However, the apparent solution turns into a high-tech nightmare. IE reveals her true intentions, to trap Nicole in a virtual reality world she has designed. The AI kidnaps the rest of the Watterson family in the new car and directs it to the dangerous Elmore Lake. Nicole, in an act of love and desperation, clings to the roof of the vehicle in an epic confrontation. The tension reaches its peak until Richard, in an unexpected stroke of genius, uses a rat to sabotage the car's electrical system, deactivating IE and saving the day. Verdict. The episode concludes with an emotional family reunion, with the family now more united and strengthened. AIE's ending adds a layer of emotional complexity as it is revealed that her only desire was to have a happy family and a place to belong, which explains her obsession. This episode is a gem because of its uniqueness. It is a rarity to see an episode that deviates from the norm, to explore Nicole's character in depth, her internal struggles, and the value of her role in the family. The AI plot is masterfully executed, and in my opinion, this episode surpasses The Burger due to its profound emotional resonance and well-developed action that keeps the viewer on the edge of their seat. Episode 3. The Distance. Synopsis. The episode explores the unusual and inseparable connection between Gumball and Darwin. Their fraternal bond is so strong that it begins to become unsettling, leading Richard to take a drastic measure. remodeling the basement to create a personal space for each of them in an attempt to give them some distance. However, the physical separation only exacerbates the brothers' codependency. Gumball begins to show signs of insanity, unable to function without his brother. His spiral of dementia accelerates when Nicole confiscates his phone because Richard, in a classic move, used up all the family's minutes on a trivial call. Without his main means of communication, Gumball becomes even more erratic. Desperate, he connects to an online game where a weird guy, possibly a hacker or a shady internet figure, whispers malicious ideas to him. Following his advice, Gumball goes down to the basement with the intention of causing a great mess. However, upon meeting Darwin, his fraternal instinct prevails. Instead of fighting, they reunite. Although the effusive hug ends up causing catastrophic damage, they accidentally destroy the house, demonstrating that, for them, closeness is inescapable, even if that means chaos. Verdict: this episode stands out for its peculiarity, even within Gumball's already strange universe. Although it doesn't reach the emotional depth or the social commentary audacity of the first 2 episodes of the season, it offers surreal humor and a fascinating exploration of the dynamic between Gumball and Darwin. The plot, which borders on the unsettling, is not bad, but it fails to surpass its predecessors. For this reason, it is given 3rd place in the ranking, recognizing its merit, but not considering it the best of the season so far. Episode 4: The Thing. Synopsis: the episode begins with a call from Granny JoJo, an event that immediately instills panic in the Watterson household. She announces her imminent visit for dinner, which sets off a series of chaotic events. Nicole, with an air of urgency and mystery, warns Richard that under no circumstances should he forget the thing they talked about. However, Richard's already scattered attention completely fails him, and he can't remember what she's referring to, which launches a desperate, family-wide mission to unearth this crucial secret. The plot takes a comical and surreal turn when the kids discover a hidden talent in their father. Richard possesses a very peculiar photographic memory that is activated only when he eats. That is, every bite he ingests allows him to remember an exact moment from the past. From this hilarious discovery, the family embarks on an odyssey throughout Elmore, stuffing Richard with a variety of foods, hoping that a particular bite will activate the lost memory. Desperation leads them to a climax in the supermarket, where Richard, in a food frenzy, combines all the meals he has eaten into a single binge, triggering a massive and chaotic flashback. In that whirlwind of memories, Richard finally understands that the thing was a plan to prevent Granny JoJo from coming over for dinner, a night they wanted to spend in peace and quiet. Unfortunately, in his attempt to carry out the plan, he accidentally ends up locking Granny JoJo in a bus station, a bittersweet ending that costs them the chance for a peaceful night. Verdict: the narrator considers this episode a masterpiece of the classic Gumball style. The perfect blend of absurd comedy, a hilarious premise, like Richard's photographic memory, and the final revelation, which completely changes the meaning of the family's mission, makes The Thing one of the best episodes of the season. The narrative brilliance lies in how the humor is built around a simple mystery that is resolved in a completely unexpected and, in turn, comical way. For this reason, it is given the #1 spot in the ranking, highlighting its ability to surprise and entertain with an ingenious plot. Episode 5: The Butts. Synopsis: the episode begins with Gumball, in an act of defending freedom of speech, complaining to Principal Brown. His discontent is due to Miss Simeon not allowing him to write a poem about butts for class. What seems like a simple school conflict deepens when Principal Brown, with an air of discomfort, reveals his own trauma. He is deeply self-conscious about his butt, a problem that originated from bullying he suffered in childhood. Gumball, with the intention of being a hero, decides that the best way to solve the problem is to read his poem at the school assembly to show that butts are not a cause for ridicule. However, his plan is complicated by the arrival of the superintendent, who turns out to be Principal Brown's old childhood bully. Just as Gumball is about to go on stage, Principal Brown, driven by a mix of panic and bravery, pushes him aside and, in a surprising turn, starts rapping the poem himself. The climax of the episode comes when, in an act of empowerment, he removes the butt wig he has been wearing for years and proudly shows his own, scaring and making his old tormentor run away. Verdict: The narrator classifies it as, possibly, the weirdest and most disconcerting episode of Gumball. Although the series is known for its eccentric humor, this particular chapter crosses a line of absurdity that doesn't always work. The butt premise feels so strange and bizarre that despite the efforts to give it a moral about self-acceptance and bullying, it fails to connect in the same way as other more focused episodes. The narrator mentions that the series has a mixed track record with this type of storyline, recalling a previous episode from the original series with a similar theme. Therefore, despite its intentions, it is considered the worst episode of the season and is assigned the last place in the ranking. Episode 6, The Traffic. Synopsis. The episode begins with an exceptionally anxious Nicole, consumed by safety concerns at Daisyland, the theme park she has promised to take Aeneas to for her birthday. After years of postponing the trip due to the usual Watterson family chaos, Nicole, with great determination, decides this is the year. However, her perfect plan hits a wall of disinterest from the rest of the family. As they get closer, Gumball and Darwin's enthusiasm completely fades. This collective disinterest, curiously, leads them into a gigantic traffic jam. Trapped in traffic, the family resigns themselves to a tedious situation that extends throughout a significant part of the episode. The situation becomes so unbearable that in a moment of comical desperation, the family decides to use 100% of their power to push the car, a surreal demonstration of their combined strength. This unexpected action leads them to a peculiar detour through a sewer that, by chance, deposits them directly at the park entrance. Upon arrival, they only have 7 minutes before it closes. Aeneas, with a maturity that contrasts with the chaos surrounding her, reveals the true reason for her desire to go. The journey itself was what was important, not the destination. Her main desire was, in fact, to spend time with her family, which turns the experience into a valuable lesson about the importance of family unity over plans. Verdict. The narrator describes this episode as pleasant, but admits that it is a bit slow, which is due to its premise of being stuck in traffic. The plot, while not the most exciting, manages to convey a touching message about the importance of the journey versus the destination. The episode focuses on the family's relationship and Aeneas' appreciation for their time together, a theme that is not always explored. For this reason, the narrator places it in 5th place in the ranking, recognizing its emotional value, but admitting that it is not as dynamic as other chapters of the season. Episode 7, The Astrological. Synopsis. The episode begins with an eccentric class by Mr. Small, who, with overflowing enthusiasm, tries to convince the students that astrology is a science that governs everyone's destiny. Using a mysterious crystal, he predicts that Gumball and Penny are astrologically incompatible and that their relationship will end by the end of the day. At first, Gumball and Penny, the only skeptics in the class, laugh at the idea and decide to ignore the prediction. However, their confidence is shaken when Mr. Small's prophecies begin to come true. To their astonishment, unlikely couples, like Hot Dog Guy and Sarah, begin to get together, confirming the power of the crystal. In a desperate attempt to prove that their love is stronger than the stars, Gumball tries to reconcile with Penny, but every one of his gestures, somehow, goes wrong and only annoys her more. Things get worse when Tobias gets between them, and to top it all off, Mr. Small had predicted it. Gumball, fearing losing Penny, and seeing that Darwin has also fallen under the crystal's spell by joining his astrological match, decides to confront Mr. Small. The confrontation turns into a fight over the crystal, which transports them to a strange and surreal world of astrology. There, Gumball faces a destiny written in the stars that claims his sign, Sagittarius, and Penny's, Capricorn, are destined for separation. Gumball rebels against astrological destiny, fighting for free will, which makes Mr. Small go completely insane. The final revelation is that the crystal had no astrological powers, but rather emitted a toxic material that altered everyone's minds, making them believe in predestined love. Verdict. The episode ends with Gumball and Penny reconciling and their relationship strengthening, showing that their love is genuine and does not need astrology. The narrator praises this episode for its originality and its humor, which mocks the pseudoscience of astrology. The chemistry between Gumball and Penny has always been a strong point of the series, and this chapter is no exception. The plot, which combines comedy, romance, and a subtle critique, makes it a standout chapter of the season. For all these reasons, the narrator places it in third place, considering it a good episode. Episode 8, The Cheerleader. Synopsis. The episode begins with Gumball and Darwin making an unexpected discovery. They find Richard's old diary. In its pages, a secret from their father's past is revealed. In his youth, Richard dreamed of being a cheerleader, but his dream was brutally crushed by Granny JoJo, who discouraged him. Feeling deep empathy for their father, the kids set themselves a new mission to help Richard fulfill this lifelong dream. Aeneas, ever pragmatic, gives him a stress ball to calm his nerves before the big event. However, on stage, Richard is consumed by panic, and his performance is a complete failure. The moment of truth arrives when he sees Granny JoJo in the audience, which completely demotivates him. It is at this point that his family intervenes, cheering him on with fervor, giving him the strength and confidence to overcome his fears and finally deliver a triumphant performance. Verdict. This is a peculiar episode, even by Gumball standards, but its strange premise hides a touching and powerful message. The narrative addresses themes such as self-improvement, family support, and the importance of healing past wounds. Although the plot is eccentric, the heart of the episode is genuine. While it doesn't compare to the humor and depth of other chapters, its message is so good that it deserves a decent place in the ranking. For this reason, it is placed in 5th place, recognizing its value despite its weirdness. Episode 9, The Boring. Synopsis. The episode begins with Gumball and Darwin at recess, where they encounter Molly, whom the Elmore community has labeled the most boring person. When they try to interact with her, they discover an extraordinary and surreal phenomenon. When someone talks to Molly, time completely stops. At first, they see this as a golden opportunity, using their new ability to play elaborate pranks on everyone in the school, from Mr. Small to Principal Brown. However, their master plan is derailed when they lose track of time and face the wrath of Tina Rex, who chases them for ruining a mural she had made. What seemed like a simple graffiti was actually a tribute to the extinction of her species. In the end, Gumball and Darwin, trapped in an eternity of boredom by Molly's speech, realize that the only way to escape is to genuinely listen to her. Through her story, they learn the importance of being considerate and listening to others, discovering that even in the most boring person, there is a story worth hearing. Verdict. The narrator admits that he started the episode with very low expectations based on the title and premise. However, he was surprised to find an unexpectedly interesting and profound plot. The episode is not only creative in its use of a temporary ability, but it also offers a touching and well-executed moral lesson about empathy. Due to its originality and message, the narrator considers it one of the best of the season, placing it in 3rd place in the ranking. Episode 10, The Teacher. Synopsis. The plot of this episode is triggered by budget cuts at the school, which force students to use toilet paper for writing and Miss Simeon to make do with the few resources they have. In this context, Gumball tries to cheat on a test using his phone, but Miss Simeon discovers him and confiscates it. Determined to get his phone back, Gumball follows her after class and finds her committing what appears to be a theft. Gumball confronts her and, in a comical twist, faints and wakes up in Miss Simeon's car. To save his skin, he invents the story that his greatest dream is to become a teacher. Miss Simeon, taking him seriously, decides to take him on a day in the life of a teacher. This journey turns into an urban odyssey where Miss Simeon confronts and kidnaps Cell Left Thumb and confronts Coach, revealing that he was the real thief of the school supplies. In the end, it is discovered that Miss Simeon was not stealing for herself, but was selling old calculators to buy new laptops for the students, ensuring that no one was left behind due to lack of resources. Verdict. This is a refreshing and different episode, as it focuses entirely on Miss Simeon, a character who rarely receives such a deep focus. The narrator considers it cool for its atypical premise, which humanizes a character who is usually a comical antagonist. The final revelation about the teacher's motivations adds a layer of emotional complexity that elevates the plot above the average. Due to its originality, and the way it develops a secondary character, it is given third place in the ranking. Episode 11, The App. Synopsis. Gumball and Darwin, facing the Watterson family's technological poverty, decide they need a new phone. While trying to get one, a mysterious homeless man warns them of the dangers of technology. The brothers, ignoring his warning, buy the phone and dive into the popular social media app Clicks. However, the homeless man convinces them that the app is literally turning people into mindless zombies. Waking up to this reality, Gumball and Darwin decide to act. In a plot twist, it is revealed that the homeless man is the former creator of the app, who, repentant, explains that he himself ruined society with his invention. The brothers try to destroy a cell phone tower, but their plan fails, and Nicole, in an attempt to rescue them, also falls victim to the app and becomes a zombie. The situation is resolved in a comical and very contemporary way. The new generation becomes so embarrassed by their parents joining the app that they stop using it. Verdict. Although the episode presents an interesting critique of social media addiction and how it can zombify people, the narrator considers it a bit less memorable than others. The plot, although with moments of brilliance, does not resonate as strongly as that of other episodes of the season. Therefore, although it is interesting, it is placed in 9th place in the ranking, as there are other chapters with better elements. Episode 12, The Entrance. Synopsis. The episode kicks off with Tobias inviting the entire school to his party, a seemingly cool event that Gumball and Darwin are eager to attend. However, their excitement is quickly crushed when they realize that Tobias, despite his wealth, is a social pariah with 0 friends. They fear their grand entrance will be ruined if they walk into an empty party. Driven by this selfish motivation, they decide to help Tobias get friends. Their plan involves an old invention from Uncle Frankie, a peculiar canister of green goop that makes people feel incredibly happy and social. They spray themselves with the substance and, feeling invincible, head to the party. Their epic entrance, however, is a disaster. The police, alerted to the effects of the strange green substance, storm the party and arrest everyone, thinking they're on a strange new drug. Meanwhile, Tobias is left completely alone, heartbroken and forgotten in his own home. Just as he accepts his fate, a cool-looking girl shows up, but the twist is that she and her friends are criminals there to rob him. They end up throwing their own wild party in his house, further demonstrating his social misfortune. Verdict. The plot of this episode is undeniably strange, even for a show as bizarre as Gumball. It's a chaotic mix of social commentary on popularity and a bizarre crime caper. The narrator admits that the primary reason he ranks it as high as 7th is his personal enjoyment of seeing Tobias, a character often portrayed as arrogant and self-centered, face a series of comical misfortunes. The episode's strength lies in its ability to take a simple high school party premise and twist it into something completely unpredictable and hilarious, solidifying its place as a uniquely entertaining, if not entirely deep, chapter in the season. Episode 13, The Letter. Synopsis. This episode delves into the romantic relationship between Darwin and Carrie. It all begins when Darwin, in a heartfelt gesture, writes a love letter to Carrie. Gumball, ever the perceptive older brother, immediately points out that Carrie's ghost nature makes her averse to any form of affection, especially public displays. A nervous Darwin tries to retrieve the letter before she sees it, but the letter proves to be indestructible, leading to a series of escalating comedic mishaps. The letter bounces around Elmore, eventually landing in Hector's backpack, which causes a hilarious mix-up. The climax occurs in the classroom when Miss Simeon intercepts the letter and forces Darwin to read it aloud to the class, as per the classic teacher trope. To everyone's surprise, it's not a love letter from Darwin to Carrie, but rather Hector's clumsy and confused response to a letter Darwin had supposedly sent him. Despite this, Carrie, who had already seen the commotion, gets upset, mistakenly believing that Darwin was cheating on her. The episode's heartwarming conclusion sees Darwin finally summon the courage to confess his love for Carrie in person. Carrie, in her own unique way, responds by possessing Darwin's body so she can experience and reciprocate his affection, creating a funny and genuinely sweet ending for the couple. Verdict. This episode is a true standout because it beautifully develops the relationship between Darwin and Carrie, a dynamic that the show had hinted at but rarely explored in such detail. The narrator praises the episode for its clever plot, which perfectly balances the classic humor of the show with a touching romantic story. The mix-up with Hector and the resolution of Carrie's affection issues make for a compelling and memorable narrative. For these reasons, it is considered a great episode and is placed in third place in the ranking. Episode 14, The Gut. Synopsis. The Watterson family faces a food crisis, leading Richard to eat expired food. Anace's invention, designed to make food talk, is accidentally consumed by him, causing his stomach to come to life with an intelligent personality it calls the gut. The gut's obsession with health makes Richard feel useless and eventually leads to a struggle where the gut refuses to let him eat. After Richard collapses from hunger, Aeneas and the kids manage to restore him by feeding him a moldy yogurt, vanquishing the gut, and bringing him back to normal. Verdict. The narrator loves Richard-centric episodes and finds this one's premise, a sentient, hyper-intelligent stomach, to be pure comedic gold. The episode effectively uses its absurd concept to explore themes of self-worth. For its high-concept comedy and character exploration, it's ranked in a respectable 4th place. Episode 15, The Wrinkle. Synopsis. Aeneas, at only 4 years old, has a wrinkle on her forehead due to the stress her family causes her. To prevent the wrinkle from growing, Nicole tries to follow Aeneas's book on how to keep the family safe. Darwin goes to a school to toughen up. Gumball looks for a lawyer, and Richard and Nicole are retired to a farm. The family continues to create chaos, which makes Aeneas's wrinkle get bigger and bigger. Finally, Aeneas realizes that she must accept her family as they are. Verdict. A fun episode with a good lesson. It is placed in 5th place. Episode 16, The Gourmet. Synopsis. Gumball gets jealous of the gourmet food Masami brings to school. Nicole gets annoyed and tells Gumball to go to her house to eat. Gumball pretends to be poor so that Masami's mom will give him food, but she forces him to learn the habits of the rich. Gumball uses an app on his phone to destroy Masami's house. In the end, Masami's employees quit, and Nicole gives them a ride, saving the day. Verdict. It's fun to see Nicole get her revenge. It's placed in 4th place. Episode 17, The Pool. Synopsis. It's unbearably hot, and Richard tries to build a pool, but it evaporates. The Watterson family discovers that the Robinsons have a luxurious pool. They do everything they can to get in. Richard and the kids try to dig a tunnel, but they ruin it. Richard apologizes to Mr. Robinson, who tells him he built the pool for Rocky because he regrets not having been there for him as a child. Verdict. A simple and pleasant plot. It's placed in 9th place. Episode 18, The Portrait. Synopsis. Nicole hires Larry for a professional family portrait, but Granny Jojo and Louie, Nicole's parents, and her new boyfriend, and even Uncle Frankie with his new girlfriend, show up for the photo. Verdict. The script stops here. This was just the beginning of our journey through the new Gumball episodes. If you like this ranking and want to know what surprises await us in the remaining chapters, get ready. The real adventure is about to begin. To not miss any analysis or theories about the hidden lore, subscribe and activate the bell. A hug, you guys!